In Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, as well as the greatest remakes of all time, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Elite Four Karen, after you beat her, will tell you strong Pokemon, weak Pokemon, that is only an illusion. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with their favorites. You understand what's important. Now, for the purposes of the game, she is supposed to be providing contrast, a foil for your rival, who throughout the whole game has been all going on about, oh, well, I hate weak Pokemon because they're just tools for battling, and so I want strong Pokemon. I understand that the reason we play competitive Pokemon is because we have an emotional attachment to the game itself. So it's natural to, want to have some sort of attachment to, cool Pokemon, and just in general, even once you get into the competitive side, you can say, oh, my favorite Pokemon is Skarmory all you want, but, it's natural to want to see some variety for most of us, But this kind of mindset, I'm not saying it's, being copy and pasted directly, but a lot of players, even accomplished players, will constantly bemoan others for always using, the good stuff. And I'm not talking about, oh, you're always so predictable with your, same style of team and you can't use anything else, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking more about, oh, it's always the standards with you. It's always the best Pokemon. And I really admire the players who bring creative stuff in general, but I especially admire the rarest breed of all, the players who don't just bring creative stuff, but bring it when everything is on the line. It's easy to bring more creative stuff, once you understand the tier you're playing, if you have some leeway. That's why you'll often see the most creative stuff being used in, let's say, there's a best of 3, and you have an advantage. You've won the first game, so even if you lose the next one, you still have game 3, and you can go with something safe after that. But, the higher risk is balanced out by the fact that you can... I mean, the best example is in the finals of one of the official ladder tournaments. CL brought a Pikachu, but that was only done because there was a game advantage, and even if that game was lost, there was still game 3. So there's that. You can also often take advantage of the fact that the opponent is going to bring something safer if they're a game down, and then that lets your surprise thing shine more. But obviously, if you're bringing nothing but crazy surprise stuff, then its efficacy goes down. The other side of this is if you have a team tournament, it's not elimination, then if your team is doing well in the standings and it's week 4, 5, 6, that's when people really tend to bust out crazy stuff, because even if it goes wrong, then it's not the end of the world. And again, because there is that safety net, then you wind up getting more success out of that creative thing. So, however, these same people who and this is not an attack at them. I want to make that extraordinarily clear. It is not an attack telling them that, oh, well, when the game really matters, you bring something safer. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's probably the right way to do it. What I am taking more issue with and making this video about is the attitude around it. Because a lot of people will say, oh, well, this very safe team style is it's boring, blah blah blah. It's always brought by X player, and then they themselves. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone rag on others for using boring standard teams, and then when the chips are down, then that's when the Skarmory comes out. It happens time and time again. Again, nothing wrong with it, but if you are going to default to Skarmory when you really need to win a game, as most people do, then I think the ragging on others for running standard styles, I don't know, it feels like it's a cultural thing, and yeah, we have emotional attachment, but let me tell you, one of the most successful players, the most successful player ever, ABR, he's tied with Empo now, whatever, he never ever got emotionally attached to wanting to bring something. For him, it was always all about the most optimal way to do things. And people would say, oh, there goes ABR using another boring team style. First of all, for him, it's not boring because, not everyone has the same measure for what makes something, fun or not. Not everything is going to be Hita Fajita, to throw it back for a second. Which is fine, but a lot of players, their idea of fun is just offense, slamming into each other. Not everything is going to be Rapidash and Advance OU. But with ABR, he never got. And again, a lot of players had the opposite. They'll get bored of using good teams and good Pokemon, and then they'll bring something worse just to mix it up, and then they lose, and then they kick themselves for not bringing the better team style. If there's one player who never had that issue, it was ABR. He's always bringing the most optimal stuff, and that's why he wins so much. He doesn't get sick of it. And you think, oh, well, that's not fun. Well, again, I guess it depends on what you're trying to get out of the game, and if you're just playing casually, then, it's not really a problem. But if you're in the competitive scene, if you're in the tournament scene, you can't really have it both ways. It's the thing where I feel like I made the point, but I'm trying to re-illustrate it, as is my bad habit, my toxic trait. But if you're playing to win at all costs, you have to have that as your main goal. Because not only is, it's, my thing if I want to lose in a tournament. Well, in a team tournament, you are letting down your team, number one. And number two, in, a bigger tournament, then it's also not good for the tournament competition if someone is getting basically free wins because their opponent got bored of using good stuff and decided to ruin themselves with XYZ. So, again, I really admire the players who bring these offbeat things, these creative things, not just for the sake of being creative, but for the sake of being good, which is another important distinction to make. A lot of times people will confuse something as being, creative or good just because it's different, and look at all the times people bring physical offense to advance because, I've been using a lot of Skarmory, let me mix it up, and then they realize after that physical offense is bad. That's why I don't use it all the time. It's the age-old dilemma. But with, it's easy to, let me, again, try to say 5 things at once. I really admire people who do that when the chips are down. And sometimes it's not the same thing if you bring something offbeat or creative and someone else was telling you to do it. If someone else is handling your team, it's so much easier for the player who's not playing to hand off, for the person who's not playing, to hand someone else a team and say, use this. This is super unexpected. It's great. You'll kill it. It's easy for them to not have to pull that trigger of actually going through with loading the team and using it. That's really hard. Not just coming up with the creative thing, but then actually bringing it to the game that matters where you don't have, the margin of error, or the breathing room, whatever you want to call it. Where if it goes wrong, you're going to ask yourself, why did I bring that? Why did I bring Drift Blim? I don't know, I just made that up. But why did I bring that, to this game that mattered? But it's much easier to give it to someone else. If someone else is not really a tier mainstay or is just going to bring whatever you give them, then it's much easier for them to reap the benefits of that. So, this is me throwing in my whole thing about how important team building is and how much I value when people do it for themselves. But the thing is also to not get caught up in, bringing some junk just because it's different. But having the guts to do it in an important game is big. But there have also been so many games where someone, goes a little too crazy, from too many months of spamming good Pokemon or something, I don't know. And then they wind up burning themselves by bringing some junk, by bringing some total, no stealth rock. Oh, this seems good to bring in this kind of game. It's happened so many times. People get in their own heads. So I guess the lesson from this video is don't be afraid of doing what works. I'm not saying bring the same copy-pasted standard team to every single game, but just because something is standard looking doesn't necessarily mean it's standard. Even if you bring a team that looks standard, you can start messing with it, and you're not going to really lose much efficacy if you suddenly give your T-Tar a crazy set in advance, for example, on an otherwise standard team. But the benefits are huge. At the same time, you're mixing things up, but you're also not going all the way into bringing, Solrock to the finals of something, because it's the two sides here, I guess, are the bring the standard or bring the offbeat thing and burn yourself with it, or bring the standard team and then criticize your contemporaries for only bringing standard teams otherwise, but then you default to the same when the chips are down. Anyway, those are just some scattered thoughts I had on the subject, because it's weird to me how it feels like our competitive scene has been getting more and more casual competitive for a long time now. I don't know what it is. So, yeah. let me know. Thank you for watching / listening. I'll see you in the next one.